The Stoic Art of Magnetic Communication, 6 Principles that Command Attention. Introduction, the Paradox of Presence. Have you ever noticed how certain individuals enter a space and immediately shift the atmosphere? They don't raise their voice. They don't perform. Yet when they speak, every word seems to carry weight, as though each syllable has been carefully measured before leaving their lips. Then there are those who fill every silence with words, explaining, elaborating, desperately trying to hold attention, only to watch eyes glaze over, minds drift away. More words spoken, less truly heard. What separates these two types isn't charisma, wit, or natural talent. It's something the ancient Stoics understood deeply. True influence emerges not from what you add to a conversation, but from what you remove. Remove the need to impress. Remove the fear of silence. Remove the desperate hunger for validation. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies to communication. Don't perform interest, embody it through how you listen and when you choose silence. Today, we'll explore 6 Stoic principles of communication. These aren't techniques or manipulative tactics. They're mental disciplines that make your words precise and your silence meaningful. They don't force people to listen, they make people want to listen. Not because you're trying, but because you're truly present. Principle 1, tell me more about that. 4 simple words that can transform any interaction. Picture this, someone mentions they've started learning piano. Most people immediately hijack the conversation. "Oh, I used to play. Here's what you should focus on." They've stolen the moment, redirecting attention to themselves. The other person opened a door, and you walked through it talking about your own house. A Stoic responds differently. They make direct eye contact and say with genuine curiosity, "Tell me more about that." Then they stop. No follow-up question. No internal rehearsal of what to say next. Just pure, undivided attention. This is true listening, not the kind where you're constructing your response, but the kind where you're genuinely curious about what comes next. And something rare happens, the other person comes alive. Their eyes brighten. They open up in ways they rarely do, because almost nobody truly listens anymore. Everyone is just waiting for their turn to speak. When you listen with full presence, you become rare. You create space where the other person feels genuinely seen. This isn't a technique from some influence playbook, this is respect, and it cannot be faked. If you're not sincerely interested, remain silent. Silence is better than hollow engagement. But when your interest is authentic, these 4 words open doors. The person walks through because they've encountered something increasingly scarce, genuine attention. Most people aren't accustomed to being truly heard. They exist in a world where conversations are competitions for airtime, where everyone waits not to understand but to speak again. But when someone truly listens, when you see them, not just hear them, something ignites within them. They won't remember all your words. They'll remember how they felt in your presence. That feeling is rare, being heard, being understood, not merely tolerated while waiting for their turn to end. After such a conversation, they don't think, "That person was so interesting." They think, "I felt interesting with them." And that's what makes people want to speak with you again. As Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. He understood that listening isn't passive, it's active presence where genuine connection is born. You're not here to impress. You're here to understand. And in a world where everyone competes for attention, sincere curiosity has become magnetic. When you truly listen, conversations deepen. People open up faster. They trust you with things they tell no one else, not because you give brilliant advice, but because they feel heard. That's the power of these 4 words. Not in saying them, but in meaning every single one. Principle 2, I don't know. 3 words most people fear, believing they signal weakness. When asked about something we don't know, instinct screams, say something intelligent. Give a general answer. Hide your uncertainty. We believe that admitting ignorance means admitting inadequacy. But watch what happens when someone fakes knowledge. They speak, and you feel the emptiness behind their words. They sound eloquent, but substance is missing. Trust crumbles in that moment. You begin wondering, if they're pretending here, where else are they pretending? False knowledge doesn't make someone appear smart, it makes them dishonest. And behind that dishonesty isn't confidence, but fear. Now observe someone at peace with their limitations. Same question. They simply say, I don't know. No excuses. No scrambling. No panic. And in that moment, trust forms. Because if someone is honest about what they don't know, when they do assert something, it's credible. Their confidence carries weight because it's genuine. This is what Socrates understood when he declared, I know only that I know nothing. This isn't false modesty, it's wisdom that begins with acknowledging boundaries. Insecure people need to know everything. Secure people can calmly say, I don't know, because their worth isn't measured by the volume of their knowledge, but by the depth of their honesty. When you begin using these 3 words sincerely, everything shifts. People around you relax. They no longer feel they must compete. They stop defending their ego. You create an atmosphere where truth is safe, where conversation transforms from combat into communion. When someone speaks confidently only about what they truly know, people believe them, because they don't speak for the sake of sound, but for meaning. Their words carry weight because they've already proven they can admit when they don't know. But be careful. Saying, I don't know, for performative humility is just another form of pretense. When someone says, I know nothing about this, then delivers a lengthy monologue filled with subtle expertise, that's not honesty, that's theater. If you don't know, admit it. Then either remain silent or, if genuinely curious, add, I don't know. Want to explore it together? Don't pretend to be ignorant, and don't pretend to be omniscient. Both are lies. Simply be honest with yourself and others. This simplicity is stronger than any mask. In a world where everyone strives to appear confident, honesty has become the rarest form of charisma. If this week you say, I don't know, even once instead of pretending, that's a moment of truth. Don't boast about it. Just remember, in that instant, you chose truth over image. Repeat that choice again and again, and it builds not false authority, but genuine trust. Principle 3, that must be difficult. Someone shares a struggle. Work is overwhelming, relationships are fracturing, exhaustion is accumulating. Everything inside them is asking simply to be understood. But most people immediately start advising, have you tried? You know, when I dealt with something similar. You just need to. They think they're helping. In reality, they're dismissing the pain, because behind unsolicited advice lies an implicit criticism. This is simple. Why haven't you handled it yourself? Most people don't share to find solutions. They share because they're tired of carrying everything alone. Speaking it aloud lightens the burden slightly. When you rush to fix it, you rob them of that release. You're suggesting their pain isn't pain, it's merely a problem to solve. Try a different approach. Look them in the eye and say calmly, that must be difficult. No advice. No comparison to your own experience. No stories about yourself. Simply acknowledge that their path is hard. That's enough for them to exhale, because perhaps for the first time, they don't need to defend their feelings. You've given them space to be honest without fear of immediate correction. And they continue speaking, not because your advice helped, but because you didn't obstruct them from hearing themselves. This is the power of patience, not in answers, but in the silence that allows another person to realize they're capable of finding their own path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Most people do the opposite. They judge others for weakness while forgiving themselves everything. True strength lies in being gentle with others' pain and rigorous with your own. This is how a Stoic operates. They don't rush to fix the world. They learn to understand. When someone shares pain, they don't need severity, they need tolerance, recognition that what's heavy for them is heavy, even if it seems trivial to you. Here's what changes when you stop rushing to offer solutions. People begin bringing you not superficial complaints, but real, deep stories, because they feel safe with you. You won't diminish, judge, or try to fix. You'll simply listen. You're creating rare space where a person is allowed to be exhausted, confused, imperfect, without pressure, without judgment. And there, in that silence of acceptance, genuine connection is born. You become someone people trust. Not because you have answers, but because you don't pretend to have them. If someone wants advice, they'll ask. Then you can share, not as an expert, but as a fellow human. When I went through something similar, this helped me. I don't know if it'll help you, but if you want it, take it. You're not the director of their life. You're a witness to their journey. And sometimes being a witness is all that's truly needed. Principle 4, Silence. This is the most difficult discipline, and the one that gives your words true weight. Most people fear silence. A pause in conversation triggers internal panic. Say something. Anything. A joke, a comment, anything to avoid the void. Silence feels like failure, as though the conversation is dying and must be rescued with a flood of words. So they speak and speak until every word loses value, until their speech becomes noise that others stop hearing. Now observe someone who doesn't fear silence. They're in a group. Everyone's talking. They remain calm, not because they have nothing to say, but because there's nothing yet worth saying. When asked a question, they don't rush to respond. 2 seconds of pause. 3. They're genuinely thinking. Then they speak, one sentence, clear and simple. And people listen, because that pause communicated, what follows will be substance, not noise. When they finish, they don't hurry to fill the silence. They let their words settle. Let others respond. If no one speaks, let there be silence. This is what silence does, it creates weight. The less frequently you speak, the more powerfully each word resonates. When you're comfortable in silence, others become nervous. They fill the pause, and in those words spoken from discomfort, true thoughts and fears emerge. You learn more about someone from what they use to fill silence than from an hour of regular conversation. But this only works when your silence is genuine peace, not tension. If you're silent but internally anxious, it's palpable. People sense your unease and become anxious alongside you. But if you're calm, if you don't need to fill every second, your peace transmits. They relax. And a relaxed person is an honest person, because authenticity is born not in noise, but in tranquility. Seneca wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned through suffering." He understood that those who cannot be silent are often fleeing not from others but from themselves, from their own thoughts, from the weight of their experiences, from the discomfort of being alone with themselves. But someone who has sat in silence with their pain no longer fears pauses, people, or life itself. Silence isn't emptiness. It's filled with attention, presence, awareness. It's a state where you don't need to prove you're interesting every minute. When you truly master this, when you stop speaking unless you feel necessity, the world around you transforms. In groups, people look to you when they want to hear something real, because you don't waste words on trivial opinions or scatter obvious observations. You speak rarely, but always with purpose. Your words carry depth. In personal conversations, things go even deeper. Pauses cease being awkward. You allow silence to work, and in silence, people reveal themselves. They say things they'd never say beneath the noise of constant chatter. This isn't coldness or detachment. This is presence, the ability to be, not by filling space with words, but with yourself. And this presence is rare. People feel it. They're drawn to it, because beside such calm, they finally stop performing. If you've realized you're filling every pause because you fear silence, stop. Don't rush. Let silence become your ally, not your enemy. When you stop fearing silence, your words grow stronger, because each one will emerge from peace, not from need. Principle 5, I appreciate you. Not, thank you, or, thanks for helping, but specifically, I appreciate you. Because these words address not actions, but the person themselves. Most gratitude is transactional. You helped, so someone said thanks. You did something, so you received praise. But that acknowledges actions, not essence. I appreciate you sounds different. You're saying it not because they did something specific, but because of who they are inherently. Hear the difference: a friend shows up during a difficult time, again, as always. You could say, thanks for being there. It's polite, correct, but shallow. Now say, I appreciate you. These words acknowledge not just their action, but their character, that they're someone who doesn't abandon, someone who stays present even when they're not obligated to be. And they feel this. Because in a world where everyone is judged by results, how much you produced, earned, accomplished, almost no one sees who you actually are. We've become accustomed to being functions. At work, productivity. At home, obligations. But, I appreciate you, is a reminder, your existence itself matters. This isn't a phrase to scatter everywhere. Don't say, I appreciate you for passing the salt, then it loses power. Speak it in moments of genuine recognition, when you notice not actions but someone's quality. A colleague stayed until midnight to help finish your project. Don't just say thanks. Look them in the eye and say, I appreciate you. These words don't sound loud, but they contain what everyone lacks: recognition, humanity, warmth. A Stoic who speaks this way isn't flattering or playing a role. They see essence. You're not thanking for a specific deed but for reliability, for character, for the person's core being. Marcus Aurelius began each day contemplating not tasks but people around him, not what they'd done, but who they were. He wrote, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He understood, seeing not someone's utility but their soul is a rare gift. And rarity is always valuable. When you see people, not their actions but their inner essence, you yourself become rare. And rarity attracts. Here's what happens when you say, I appreciate you, and genuinely mean it. People become loyal not because you're useful to them, but because beside you, they feel visible. In a world where everyone's measured by results, you become someone who sees the whole person, with weaknesses, with constancy, with their unique human worth. This isn't manipulation. This is humanity. We all want to be seen. Almost no one receives it. And when someone finally notices you, not what you did, but who you are, you don't forget that person. Say these words rarely. But when you do, speak from the heart. Because in a world where people thank for services, you're thanking for the person. And that creates a bond no transaction can build. Principle 6, No. One word. The shortest. The hardest. Someone requests your time, energy, presence where you don't want to be. You feel your tongue automatically forming yes. You say yes because you don't want to seem rude, because you fear offending, because you don't want to be perceived as selfish. Here's the result: you agree to tasks you don't want to do, meetings that drain you, projects devoid of meaning. You give away your time, the one resource you can never recover, to those who shouldn't receive it. Every time you say yes when internally it's no, you teach others not to respect your boundaries. You're demonstrating, my life is available, my time is cheap, my priorities are secondary. Look at those who can't refuse. They're always busy but rarely with what truly matters. They're exhausted, irritated, internally hollow. Their calendar is overflowing while their life feels empty, because they distributed their time to everyone except themselves. Ironically, they're not respected more for this, they're valued less. Because if you don't value your own time, why should anyone else value it for you? Now observe someone who knows how to say no. They receive a request. They don't answer immediately. They think, checking, do I genuinely want this? If not, they simply say, no, I can't. No apologies. No fabricated reasons. No, maybe next time. Just no. And that no doesn't sound rude, it sounds confident, because behind it stands self-respect, respect for priorities, respect for time. The other person might be surprised, disappointed, but internally, they respect this, because they're seeing someone who knows boundaries, who doesn't sell themselves for external approval. No is the language of dignity. Those who master it don't need justifications. They're not cold, they're honest. Seneca wrote, "The one who cannot live for themselves will always be a slave to others." This is why a Stoic says no, not from pride, but from inner calm. They're not rejecting the world, they're choosing what's worthy of their attention. Those who can say no are rare. They know their time's value and guard it like an inner sanctuary. Their yes carries meaning because it's backed by choice. Your yes means nothing if your no is impossible. If you agree to everything, you're not choosing, you're merely reacting. But when people know you're capable of refusing, your consent gains weight. When you show up, they understand, you chose to be here, rather than ended up here from weakness. Epictetus said, "First understand the meaning of what you say, and then speak." Most people say yes without considering what they're saying yes to, because every yes is always no to something else. No to your plans, goals, rest, to who you could become. You just didn't speak it aloud. You said no to yourself. When you start saying no honestly, everything transforms. People stop assuming you're always available. They think before asking. And when you do say yes, it becomes rare, and rarity is always valuable. You reclaim your time, energy, attention, what previously leaked away through endless minor obligations. Say no. Without guilt, without explanations, without attempts to soften truth. Simply know, your time is yours. It belongs to no one but you. Here's what will happen, your life will clarify. Those who were present only because you couldn't refuse will disappear. Those who respect you, not your compliance, will remain. Boundaries don't repel, they attract the worthy and filter out the casual. Conclusion: character revealed through words. These 6 principles, curiosity, honesty, compassion, silence, recognition, and boundaries, aren't tricks or influence techniques. They're character manifested through speech. Because true power isn't in rhetoric technique but in who you are when you speak. Notice, all of them require not effort, but presence. Being interested enough to truly listen. Confident enough to admit ignorance. Mature enough not to rush with solutions. Calm enough not to fear silence. Attentive enough to see the person, not their utility. strong enough to protect your time. The Stoics knew, attractiveness isn't addition but subtraction. Don't increase volume, remove falseness. Don't seek attention, remove the need for it. Don't agree to everything, choose what's genuinely yours. Because the moment you stop performing, people finally hear not what you're saying, but who's speaking. If this changes how you view communication, share it with someone who speaks too much and listens too little. And remember, the most attractive thing you can do is stop trying to be attractive. Simply be present, attentive, authentic. Everything else will follow. Train your mind. Master your life.